Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Holder, I'm going to ask you some questions, and I think they're pretty easy yes and no questions. Let's see if we can go that route. Are you aware of a 1994 implementation DOJ was responsible for?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you too well.
94, there was an implementation. DOJ was responsible for the implementation of CALEA standards for law enforcement. Are you aware of that?
I'm not sure of the year, but I certainly remember CALEA, yeah.
Does your agency operate under CALEA standards, or do you just implement them for law enforcement agencies across the country?
I'm not sure. Do we operate under them?
Yes. I mean, do you have that type of, are you accredited? I mean, you accredit other agencies. Are you following the same type of accreditation guidelines as agencies throughout our nation?
I assume that we do, yes. Yeah.
You assume. So then you would agree that supervisory personnel are accountable for those people and the performance of the people underneath them, correct?
Yeah, that as a general rule, sure, yes.
You know, I listen intently because I'm one of those law enforcement officers. I'm not a lawyer or anything else, and I also have a husband on the wall over in Judiciary Square. I have a lot of friends on that wall, so I'm going to come at it a different area. I take issue with you saying that we're trying to make political points with Officer Terry's death. To me, it's personal, okay? It's not political. One of our officers was killed with weapons that were allowed to walk. That should never have happened. I have worked on undercover. We never would allow weapons to walk. Now, I've heard you say, if we get this provision that would the long guns, then it would help. The problem is, under Fast and Furious, it wouldn't have helped, would it? Those weapons still would have walked, wouldn't they? Under Fast and Furious, would they have walked or not?
Yeah, but one.
Yes. Okay. Let's move on. No,
one
because
does not necessarily preclude the other. I mean, the fact is that under Fast and Furious, a flawed operation, and about which I have not tried to defend the conduct.
Correct. I understand that.
That is
but
one
under
thing.
that
but
system, would they not have walked?
Larger picture, there's no question that the implementation of that long gun rule will decrease the possibility that we will have further tragedy. Mr.
Attorney General, what my question was, under Fast and Furious, those weapons still would have walked, would they not?
The weapons,
yes or no?
You don't dictate. The weapons went into the flow of commerce because of mistaken decisions that were made by people.
Okay, let's talk about those decisions. Let's talk about those decisions. Here we have an operation you get memos on, but no one, not you nor your chief of staff, is reading those memos. Somewhere along the lines, somebody has to know something, because this is an operation that's not just within our borders, it's crossing international borders. So what rises to the level that the Attorney General of our United States needs to know? What is it that you need to know about that rises to that level, that you have an operation crossing international borders? You now say that you didn't find out about it until after the fact, and after inquiries happened, after Officer Terry's death. What is it that would rise to the level that you would have to sign off on? Since going across international borders isn't one of them, could you tell me what would be? Well,
first off, you are referring to these as memos. They were weekly reports.
Well, any operation. Is there an operation that would rise to the level that would need your sign-off?
Well, sure, there are things that I have to sign off.
But not this one, the one that crossed international borders?
No.
Would the gentlelady yield briefly?
Could I answer the question first? What one has to understand is, and I would urge you, if you have not done this, to look at these weekly reports and to look at exactly what it was.
Mr. Holder, I understand you had weekly reports, and I've got a couple more questions. I want to make sure I get them in. But I'm asking you, and I ask you, what would rise to the level for you to have to sign off on it? Because this apparently did not. You said you had weekly reports that you didn't review and your chief didn't review. So that's the question I ask, and you said there is, so I'm waiting to hear. But while I wait for that answer, let me ask you another question, because one of my colleagues asked you about your emails, and you went straight to your work email. Hardly anybody has that. I'm going to ask you a very direct question. You have a personal email account. Did you at any time, email on your personal account with Larry Brewer or Lanny Brewer and Gary Grindler in regards to Fast and Furious ever?
Ever?
Yes
The
or no?
gentlewoman is recognized for an additional minute so the Attorney General can respond to her questions.
I don't know. I can tell you that I didn't know
Would
anything.
you check and get back with us? If you need some help, I'm sure that your agency personnel can get into those computers.
Well, with regard to provision of emails, I thought I'd made it clear that after February the 4th, it is not our intention to provide email information consistent with the way in which the Justice Department has always conducted itself. The exception that I made in the hope that the Justice Department would be seen as transparent, was to go against that tradition and to make available deliberative material around the February 4th letter.
So again, as in when you were here before and I asked you about a totally different issue, you were saying that you refused to provide that information. Is that correct?
I didn't hear the whole. You were talking at the same time I was talking. And please, you didn't have more time. I don't want to cut off your time. I just didn't hear the question. Previously,
in another committee, when you were here earlier, I asked you another question. You said you would not answer that question. Now you're saying that you won't provide those emails because that's not consistent with whatever policy was previous. I'm asking you, if there is clean hands here, will you provide those emails to this committee?
as I said,
Yes or no?
I'm going to act in a way that's consistent with all attorneys general before me.
That's not my question, Attorney General. You know, with due respect, that was not my question. I ask you, with clean hands, would you supply those emails, whether it's work-related or personal emails, as they apply to anything that had to do with Fast and Furious,
And as I
to this
said,
committee? Yes or no?
as I said, with regard to the Justice Department as a whole,
I yield back.
and I am the
Mr. Chair,
person,
I'm not going to get the answer.
as I said, with regard to the Justice Department as a whole, and I'm certainly a member of the Justice Department, we will not provide memos after February the 4th. And that is a way in which we are
With
acting,
regards to emails, I didn't ask memos, I said emails.
emails, memos, consistent with the way in which the Department of Justice has always conducted itself in its interaction.
What about prior
with-
to February 4th?
Gentlewoman's time has expired. The answer was no. Is that correct, Mr. Attorney General?
No, but consistent with the way in which the Justice Department has always conducted itself. This is not something that I am making up in terms of new policy.
No, I know, but you used the word not. I took not to be no.
Oh, I said no.
Okay.
I'm saying no, but
Okay.
again, consistent with DOJ policy.
I understand.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Ms. Adams.